Bulabinaka, my name is Litia and I'm from the beautiful island of Laos and I love listening to Today FM. Today FM rock.
My name is Casey, I'm from Tabua. We love Today FM in Tabua. Today FM rocks.
My name is Selena, I'm from Tavenga Vengamba. I love listening to Today FM. Today FM rocks.
Pula, my name is Carlo. I love listening to the music in Today FM, in Malak Island. Today FM rock.
Today's hit music on Today FM.
In the news tonight, TC Kenny moves away from Fiji. West faces brunt of wind and floods. And authorities take proactive approach to help Fijians.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Jackie Smith.
Radar images show that severe tropical cyclone Kenny has passed over Kadavu and slowly moving away from Fiji. The Fiji Meteorological Services says TC Kenny made landfall over Kadavu earlier this afternoon and moved over to the western half of the island. TC Kenny was located about 50 kilometers southeast of Kadavu and 120 kilometers west of Matuku at 4:40 p.m. It is moving east-southeast at about 35 kilometers an hour. On this track, the cyclone center is expected to be located approximately 80 kilometers west of Onoilau at about 10:40 p.m. and approximately 240 kilometers southeast of Onoilau at about 4:40 tomorrow morning. It is then expected to continue to move southeastwards away from the group. We now join Maggie Boyle, who will be talking to Prime Minister Vurenge Bainimarama. Maggie.
Good evening, Jackie. Of course, Tropical Cyclone Kenny remains in our system. I'm here with the Prime Minister, who's going to give us an update on the situation going forward. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Maggie. As you know, at 5 o'clock this afternoon, the storm was still very much in our waters. It was about 60 miles east-southeast of Kadavu. And it's brought a lot of we've received reports of damages to the schools in Wunisea and, of course, the homes in Kadavu in general. But they're still very much in our waters. So there'll be damaging winds and heavy seas, especially in the southern Lao. There'll be flooding, of course. There'll be continuous flooding in the low-lying areas in Fiji because the rain, it has brought about rain and the rain will, of course, come down in heavy downpours.
Can you tell us the situation with regards to the closure or the opening of schools?
Thank you. There's been advice from the Education Department and, of course, the officials here at NDMO, Disaster Management, that schools that have been used as evacuation centers, they, especially in the Western Division, they to remain closed. This is in the light of the number of schools being used as evacuation centers, the extent of the two flooding events. They need to complete the cleanup in most of those schools, so they will remain closed, the schools in the Western Division. The schools in Lambasa will open. Of course, in the Eastern Division will open, except for the schools in Kadavu. The officials of the NDMO, the director, will give you a final brief on that. But the schools in Kadavu and the schools in the Lambasa area will, of course, remain closed, as other schools in the Western Division that are being used as evacuation centers.
And the issue with regards to public transportation?
Thank you, Maggie. As of tomorrow, public transportation is back on. Business as usual. Civil servants are required to be back at their posts, and of course the shops and supermarkets will of course be open.
With regards to inter-island ferries?
Inter-island ferries, there's been a recommendation that they remain, that they don't go out to sea. There's no operation recommended for them right now. Because, as I said, it's still very much in our waters, and there'll be heavy seas and heavy swells out in open seas.
Prime Minister, given that Cyclone Kenny is still within our system, what is your advice to everyone out there?
Well, my advice is the one I gave this morning is to remain indoors, look after your family as well, store up food and water. As you know, electricity is down. And in the Western Division, it took down now our line from the main line from Bunda, and it went down. There'll be no water and no pumps, so you need to store water, look after your family, and of course store food, but stay away from flooded areas.
All right, thank you, Jackie. We'll leave it there.
Thanks so much for that, Maggie. Earlier in the day, Nadi also felt the brunt of severe tropical cyclone Kenny. The town centre was closed, homes were secured, and as people in Nadi braced for what TC Kenny was going to bring. Felipe Naikaso reports.
This was Nadi town at around 8 a.m. as all took precautionary measures, bracing for the arrival of tropical cyclone Kenny, and then the arrival of the wind and rain ravaging the tourist town. Like other towns, Nadi residents also felt the effects of the Category 3 system for almost 6 hours. Damage to trees were apparent, but authorities and residents were swift to clear many roads. And history repeating itself as parts of the Nadi back road was also flooded due to heavy rain. Despite warning given by police for people not to loiter during the adverse weather condition, some were still seen in and around Nadi. However, no major incidents were recorded in Nadi as tropical cyclone Kenny passed Viti Levu this afternoon. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
With the weather having cleared in most parts, we join Felipe Naikaso from our Nadi office. Felipe, what is the latest from the Nadi Met office?
Yes, Jackie, tropical cyclone Kenny continues to move away from the group, and the question on everybody's mind is for tomorrow's weather. Mr. Kumar, what can people expect from tomorrow? Can they expect some sunshine, or is there some flood warnings and heavy rain warnings still in place by the Fiji Met?
Thank you, Felipe. As the severe tropical cyclone Kenny moves slowly further away from the group towards the southern Lau, and we see that there is an improvement in weather coming in, and from tomorrow we'll see that there is an improvement. However, there would be still the trough lying over us. There is a possibility of some rain coming our way, heavy at times, and a possibility of flash flooding as well. As we come into Thursday, we'll see much more improvement in weather coming from the west.
Mr. Kumar, thank you very much for your time. Jackie.
Thanks so much for that, Felipe. Residents in Ba, Tavo and Rakiraki felt the full brunt of severe tropical cyclone Kenny throughout the day. Earlier today, the Nasivi River in Tavua, Rewasa River in Rakiraki and Ba River burst its banks, leading to widespread flooding of nearby settlements. Areas flooded in Tavua included Nasivi, Yalandro, Balata, Yasiasi and Toko. The road from Tavua to Vatukola is currently closed to all traffic as many areas are underwater. While in Rakiraki, the town including Galau, Rewasa, Korotale, Narara and Ngoro Flats were all underwater. Strong winds destroyed sugarcane fields and affected temporary shelters in Rakiraki, whereas in Ba at around 4 p.m, the town along with Namosau Bridge and nearby settlements were underwater. Movement into Lambasa town is now restricted. Eleanor Tarangaivu reports it's a move by authorities to ensure the safety of both the public and the businesses.
Police have closed off both ends of Lambasa town this evening to restrict the movement of the public into the town area after shops closed early today due to the pending weather situation.
Police are patrolling the town and they'll be more strictly monitoring the movement of the people in town.
The low-lying areas in and around Lambasa, especially the roads and crossings, are still underwater this evening following heavy rainfall this morning. This is at the Ndreketi crossing at around 11 a.m. and it's closed to the traffic as well as the public. At Mbombale in Bulileka, the bridge is still underwater and part of the road is washed out. It's the same story in Bodha, where the road is closed to traffic and the public as well. Farms are also underwater. More evacuation centers were activated today.
Right now, there are about 21 evacuation centers, and that has covered Maduata, some in Bua and Lakonrobe with 122 families, 817 evacuees.
While severe tropical cyclone Kenny is slowly moving away from the group, the Northern Division can still expect occasional heavy rain, and the Northern EOC maintains its current advisory.
For us in the Northern Division, as of now, we haven't had any casualties, which is a good sign that the people are taking heed of the sound advices that are being given to them.
Nambowalu, Lekutu and Kumbulau in Bo have also reported occasional rain, and some of the main roads in the area are closed to traffic. Eleanor Turangaibiu, FBC News.
We again join Maggie Boyle, who is now talking to NDMO Director Anare Lewaningila. Maggie, what's the latest?
Jackie, well, we're not out of the woods yet, as the Prime Minister said. We are still, of course, grappling with TC Kenny, which is still in our system. I'm here, of course, with the National Director, the Director for the National Disaster Management Office. He's been a familiar face with us over the last couple of hours. Anare, can you give me the latest in terms of operations going forward?
Thank you, Maggie. As we speak, the teams are currently going around the affected areas, visiting the various evacuation centers, visiting affected areas, low-lying areas and flood-prone areas, just to ensure that all those who are affected from the recent spate of flooding and also from the strong winds are taken to the necessary evacuation center. That's just to ensure that people are safe overnight before we further assess the situation tomorrow morning.
What is the current status of evacuation centers?
We have 119 evacuation centers with around 6,754 evacuees. That's for the whole of Fiji. We have some evacuation center out there in the Central Division. And also we have reports coming in from Kandavu that the island has sustained some damages. Right now the Commissioner Eastern is still working on verifying the number of evacuation centers that are active. As we might have heard, the storm is still outside of Kandavu, and they believe right now they're still facing some strong winds in some of those affected areas.
Anare, in terms of preliminary damage at this stage, can you tell us what's out there?
I think there's a reoccurrence of the flooding that had occurred for TC Josie. I think a lot of the areas that had been affected are affected again from the recent spate of events, and the teams will be out there to look at what are the current damages and also to begin the necessary cleanup that is required to restore normalcy in a lot of these areas.
In terms of priority areas for the NDMO over the next 12 to 24 hours, what will those be?
Thank you. The priority will be to ensure that we get the remaining schools that will be closed to resume back to normal classes. I know that the school holidays are coming up and there might be a lot of areas that might need cleaning up, so we might have to mobilize a lot of the resources that we have to ensure that we clean up a lot of the schools and also a lot of the flooded areas, to ensure that those in evacuation centers are returned safely to their various homes.
So just to be clear, we've had in the west, the schools will remain closed. That will continue. In the north, however, there will be partial openings for some schools.
Yes, I believe we had agreed with the Ministry for Education that all schools that are used as evacuation centers to remain closed, to ensure that the families or those who are in evacuation centers do the necessary cleaning up before they are returned to their homes. So basically those are what we have recommended. And also in the north, there are some schools that are being used at evacuation center, and also we are facing water disruptions in the north due to the damage at the Ngalo water reservoir that has been reported by Water Authority. That is why we need to close some of the schools in the greater Lambasa area who will be affected by water disruptions in the area.
And just lastly, people listening tonight, what do you need them to do in terms of those in evacuation centers and people that are being affected by the flooding?
I think for those in evacuation areas, we recommend that they stay in the evacuation areas to wait out the receding of the waters before we further assess the situation tomorrow, before everyone returns to their respective homes. For those in affected areas, given that it's getting to darkness, the teams will be mobilizing first thing tomorrow morning to assess all these areas and also to look at the needs assessment for the various people out in these affected areas to ensure that government responds accordingly to the needs of those that have been affected.
Thank you, Anare. We'll leave it there.
Thanks so much for that, Maggie. Still to come, more on the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Kenny. Stay with us.
Bula, kera mai singatoka, kera ndo talita kana varorong na Radio Fiji 1 and Domoi Viti.
Ayaw na rin siya. Uti kombinasyon mo tikola ndo talita kana Radio Fiji 1 kina Domoi Viti.
Ayaw ko yazo silitale, nagurara may nawamanyi, nandunga. Gitu talita jiri ang gitu Venezuela, nagudurong varorong na Radio Fiji 1 na Domoi Viti.
Na Radio Fiji 1 na Domoi Viti na bonga ni BNN.
Heavy rain, strong winds, lightning and thunderstorm ravaged the Western Division from this morning until after midday, with Lautoka feeling the brunt first. Akusida Thale was in Lautoka during the day and files this report.
Heavy rain and strong winds hit the Sugar City as early as 8 a.m. Residents were seen doing last-minute preparations, securing their properties and livestock, as well as buying the essentials, as TC Kenny quickly intensified from Category 2 into a Category 3 system. Fuel service stations were jam-packed. Some were fueling up vehicles, while others came to get kerosene, as the service stations were scheduled to close around midday. Visibility on the road was poor, and police officers were present in numbers to warn people and urge them to stay away from danger. Entry into Nandi from the Sambeto Bridge was closed around midday as water levels to nearby homes rose quickly. The Sambeto Road was also closed due to flooding. Heavy and strong winds ceased by this afternoon. 17 evacuation centers are now open in Lautoka for residents that have been affected by TC Kenny.
We now join Akusita Thale, who has been covering the cyclone and floods in the west. Akusita, what is the situation now and has it improved compared to the day?
Jackie, we can confirm that heavy rain has eased this afternoon in the Western Division. However, we can still feel strong winds, and the strong winds are expected to gradually ease overnight. However, most parts in the Western Division are still without power, and most areas have been without power since this morning. Jackie, we've also noticed that since the weather cleared this afternoon, many residents have been coming out of their homes and wandering into areas that have been affected by flood. And the police is concerned about the safety of these residents. Therefore, the public is advised to remain indoors for safety purposes. Jackie, we can also confirm that following the devastation caused by severe tropical cyclone Kenny, there are currently 82 evacuation centers that have been activated and are now open in the Western Division, with close to 5,300 people seeking shelter in these centers. Jackie.
Thanks so much for that update, Akusita. Around 129 evacuation centers are currently active around the country, with over 5,000 evacuees taking shelter. National Disaster Management Office Director Anare Leweningila says they are still trying to confirm numbers from other areas with officials on the ground. Ali Kimbia has more.
The NDMO has been working tirelessly, getting situation updates from its representatives from around the country.
As we speak, we have not received any reports from Kandau in relation to the evacuation centers that have been activated as a result of our communication on the need for better preparedness. Once the situation improves tomorrow, the commissioners will then reassess the situation.
Leweningila has advised the evacuees to remain in the centers until the threat passes completely.
So right now what we're doing is just advising the people that are currently in the evacuation center to remain in the evacuation center as we are approaching nightfall. That is just to ensure that they are in the safe areas before we reassess the situation tomorrow.
According to situation reports gathered by NDMO, the Rakiraki and Mba town are closed due to floodwaters.
But as we speak, probably the towns of Rakiraki and Mba, they were closed to all traffic, and then we will restrict the movement of people. However, water is beginning to recede.
The NDMO says they will ensure that everything is safe before the approval is given to families in evacuation centers to move back to their homes. Ali Kimbia, FBC News.
The Republic of Fiji Military Forces is also on standby to help Fijians impacted by severe tropical cyclone Kenny. RFMF Commander Rear Admiral William Poto says the troops were already on the ground doing cleanup after TC Josie, but they were pre-positioned when severe tropical cyclone Kenny formed. He says their main focus right now is to respond to all emergencies.
We are involved in assistance to people that need evacuation, assistance in the distribution of food rations, packing of food rations. We also delivering water. We have a water truck, so we also assisting in that way. And we are getting our tasking from the Commissioner Western's office as far as the Western is concerned. We also up in the north, and we are getting our tasking from Commissioner North over there. It's about 60 people who are on the ground working right now.
The Fiji Police Force has commended those Fijians who have adhered to the warnings and evacuated where necessary across the country at the height of the cyclone. Commissioner of Police Brigadier General Siti Veningilio says they have had to cope with ensuring that more than 6,200 evacuees were safely accommodated across 95 evacuation centres in the last 48 hours. The Commissioner says while these figures are expected to increase overnight with flooding, the worst in the Western and Northern Divisions, safety remains paramount.
We've gone around identifying ex-military officers and ex-police officers in these evacuation centers who we could delegate to be responsible to have some sense of order in those evacuation centers. In the past, we've had incidences where things have happened in the evacuation centers, and there are criminals who try and take advantage of the situation. We've been careful to do that. We've made a few arrests in the Western Division in the last few days when criminals have tried to do their business, despite the adverse weather conditions we've been experiencing.
Earlier today, police directed all major supermarkets to shut down at around midday. Only small shops were allowed to remain open for people to buy essential items.
We plead with the public, take heed of the advice that comes from NDMO and follow instructions that you are given. It's no use taking those risks. We've had people that have been deceased recently that have decided to take on those risks. We call on parents and guardians, be aware of where your children are and look after them. In many cases, some of these kids are still out there playing out in the rain, and we have to go out of our way to continue to do that. Parents and guardians need to play their part.
Still to come, outer islands face severe weather conditions. Stay with us.
Moala rarara ranavika au tikongana tauna singatoka andou talifaka na vakaronga na Bula FM number 2 na serre
ya dora subuli kurnambili iborani batukara hambara binaranga do talitakina na vakaronga na Bula FM number 2 na serre
Bula FM number 2 na serre.
People continue to disobey warnings given of not trying to cross flooded roads and bridges. FBC News this afternoon saw firsthand a couple of vehicle owners trying to cross a flooded bridge in Farm Road and later being involved in a spat with police officers. Kritika Kumar reports.
Just a mere few hours after a warning from the police commissioner of people to adhere to warnings, this did not seem the case in this situation.
Yeah, nobody even here is at my place. I'm here to tie my brother's house and I want to go back and tie my house. And we are stopped by these officers here.
Commissioner's advice is police officers supposed to stop people crossing the flooded areas just because at the moment I think there are 9 drowning cases. Still we are telling the public not to cross, but people are not taking the advice seriously.
Police Commissioner Brigadier General Siti Veningilio says the biggest challenge for them is that people are not adhering to the weather advice.
We plead with the public, take heed of the advice that comes from NDMO and follow instructions that you are given. It's no use taking those risks. We've had people that have been deceased recently that have decided to take on those risks. We call on parents and guardians, be aware of where your children are and look after them. In many cases, some of these kids are still out there playing out in the rain, and we have to go out of our way to continue to do that. Parents and guardians need to play their part.
Meanwhile, there was not much impact from the cyclone from Suva to Nosori. However, people did take all precautionary measures to ensure they stayed safe in case the unpredictable weather affected them. In Nosori, the famous Rewa River, while higher than usual, did not really pose a threat and did not show any signs of breaking its bank. Residents are advised to keep updated with weather warnings and refrain from crossing or driving through flooded areas. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Most communication in Kandava were down as severe tropical cyclone Kenny made landfall on the island at around 3 p.m. today. Nassau villager Mithieli Mbulunaudha told FBC News heavy rain and strong winds picked up speed after midday. Nassau villagers are currently taking shelter at 2 evacuation centres. Low-lying areas on the island are flooded due to the unexpected storm surge. Mbulunaudha says Yangona farms, crops and vegetable farms have been severely affected. Meanwhile, pictures shared by Nir Prakash via Facebook shows the devastation caused by the Category 3 system at the government station in Vunisere. Several storm surges were experienced in Benga earlier today. Rukua villager Mika Tumbunavao says strong winds and heavy rain continued from the morning, flooding low-lying areas. Tumbunavao says villagers were told to stay indoors and avoid moving around coastal areas. Rain began to ease on the island by late afternoon. However, river levels continued to rise.
I'm here in Rukua on the island of Benga. Behind me are the big waves. And it has been like this for almost half a day. And this is the kind of weather we experience on wind like this. So the wind has died down, but the waves are still coming, as you can see behind me.
Unnecessary movement was restricted in Levuka today as strong winds and rough seas were experienced throughout the day. Levuka resident Pasepa Seru says they were informed by police to stay indoors and take precautionary measures. Seru says people took the warning seriously.
It's getting stronger and stronger, and heavy rain and also the thunderstorm. And we wish that it will go past in a minute and will pass us in Levuka.
Matuko Island in the Lau Group experienced heavy rain, strong winds, lightning and thunderstorms as severe tropical cyclone Kenny moved closer to the Fiji group earlier today. Yaroi teacher Apisai Salamba says the evacuation centres at Yaroi village had been occupied by some evacuees consisting of about 5 families, including the teachers of Ratu Mothe Vakadha Memorial School. Low-lying areas are being flooded and also small creeks and rivers have burst their banks. Still to come, the latest on electricity and other utilities. Stay with us.
मैं प्रेमिला वायरुकू रेकी रेकी से सुबह मेरी आँख खुलती है तो मैं मिर्ची एफएम सुनती हूँ। मिर्ची एफएम इज नंबर 1। इट्स सो हॉट।
हम लोग बार टाउन के कैरियर ड्राइवर लोगों ने हम लोग के मिर्ची एफएम सुनो अच्छा लगे। मिर्ची एफएम इज हॉट।
हाय, मैं संध्या नारिया रेफरी से मेरे सारे दोस्त मिर्ची एफएम सुनते हैं। मिर्ची एफएम इज हॉट। आई लव मिर्ची एफएम।
हमें स्पिन टॉक हुआ कि मिर्ची एफएम में सबसे अच्छा गाना बजे।
मिर्ची एफएम इट्स हॉट।
Police kept patrolling Gawea settlement in Lami today to ensure residents adhered to the warning. Many houses in low-lying areas were flooded. Today, residents made a short run to the nearby shops to buy basic food items, kerosene and candles. Residents say their crops had been damaged and floodwaters had entered many of their homes, ruining groceries and electrical items.
Most of the houses here are at low level and water level has been rising and going into everyone's houses, and many damaging has been done to some houses at the moment now. Food are been damaged too, and some other electrical appliances also.
Some of the residential people here, they planting like ndalo and cassava. I saw that the crop has been badly damaged.
Earlier in the day, storm surges were witnessed by those living along low-lying coastlines. This was captured by staff of Yatule Resort Natandola at around 3 p.m. The storm surges led to flooding in nearby areas, but no serious damage was recorded. All health facilities will remain open to handle emergency cases for the next 24 to 48 hours unless otherwise indicated. The Health and Medical Services Ministry says there is a likelihood that health facilities will only be able to provide essential services as most of their staff are either rostered in an emergency operations centre or are residing in high-risk, inaccessible areas. The ministry says health centres may be closed if power and water disruptions affect workers' ability to provide services in a safe and hygienic manner. Hospitals will remain open to receive emergency cases. All non-essential services, such as special outpatient clinics, have been cancelled until further notice. Rebooking of appointments may be made as soon as the weather clears. All major hospitals will remain open to care for critical patients, and hospital visitation will be restricted to close family members only. Pregnant mothers who are closer to due date are advised to temporarily relocate to areas that are easily accessible to maternity facilities if it is safe to travel. The Water Authority is working to restore supply in the Greater Lambasa area. There were 2 burst mains at the Ndongoru River that has been affecting water supply to the whole of Lambasa from last week. The 15-inch cast iron burst has been repaired and water flow at Benau is now back to normal. However, they are now waiting for the water level to recede before they can start work on the second burst, the 10-inch PVC line. For now, 27 water trucks are carting water to the affected areas, and due to the low water level at the reservoir, water is being carted from Senganga. Many roads were closed today due to flooding, the possibility of falling rocks, landslides and debris. The Fiji Roads Authority deployed its contractors to all divisions to monitor the weather situation and see that traffic was being diverted where needed. There were also significant surface flooding in some parts along the Queens and Kings Road. FRA says more roads are expected to close and they're closely monitoring the situation. The public is advised to be careful and avoid all flooded sections of road as strong currents are likely and will carry away vehicles in some circumstances. Tropical Cyclone Kenny has caused power disruptions, especially on the line that transports power from the hydropower stations in Monasavu and Andarivatu to the western part of the country. FEA Chief Executive Hasmukh Patel says the authority expects to carry a helicopter patrol of the faulty transmission line tomorrow morning. There is no power supply to customers in Ba and Tavua due to deficiency in generation capacity, while for Singatoka, FEA teams are working to ensure power restored later this evening. However, for the Central Division, FEA presently is running the Kinoya Power Station to ensure all those affected will get power restored later this evening, while 95% of power has been restored to customers in the Northern Division. Meanwhile, parts of Lautoka and Nandi are being supplied with electricity from the Vunda diesel power station.
Once we find what the fault with the transmission line is, then and then we'll be able to say with some conviction as to when is it likely that the Western Division will be fully restored. Now, if the fault on the transmission line is one that is reparable within a few hours, then we can say we should be able to switch on power to the Western Division in a sustainable manner, hopefully by tomorrow night or by Friday morning or by Thursday morning.
Ahead in sports, Fiji pearls thumped by Australia. And Fiji wins gold after 16 years at the Commonwealth Games. This and more coming up.
Bula, kera mai Singatoka, kera ndo tali taka na varorong na Radio Fiji 1 and Domoy Viti.
Ayaw na rin siya. Kung minasong ko tikola, ndo tali taka na Radio Fiji 1 and Domoy Viti.
Kaya kuya sila tali, nagurara may nawamanyi, nando nga. Gitu tali taki yang gitu Venezuela, nagudurong barong na Radio Fiji 1 and Domoy Viti.
Na Radio Fiji 1 and Domoy Viti na bonga ni BNN.
The Lautoka football side has qualified to its first ever OFC Champions League semi-final, beating AS Dragon by 2-1 in the quarter-final. Pranil Naidu and Brian Kaltak scored the goals for the side. The Fiji Pearls were taught a lesson as they were thumped 108-23 by world champions Australia in the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast, Australia last night. Fiji rarely visited their opponent's half as the Diamonds dominated in all the quarters. Australia led 55-15 at the halftime break. Meanwhile, Fiji plays South Africa at 8:32 tonight. Weightlifter Eileen Vikamatana scooped the first gold medal for Fiji at the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast, Australia yesterday. Vikamatana lifted a total of 233 kg in the 90 kg category. The gold medalist lifted 103 kgs in the snatch and 130 kg in the clean and jerk. Recapping the main stories, TC Kenny moves away from Fiji. West faces brunt of wind and floods. And authorities take proactive approach to help Fijians. Now for these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. To our poll question this week, we are asking, should Gareth Baber be given a contract to coach the national team until the next Olympics? Visit our FBC website to answer. Remember, you can send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via Facebook page FBC News. You can also follow and tweet us your news tips at FBC_news or simply hashtag FBC News. That was your FBC News for tonight. From the team and I, stay safe. Good night.
On the radio Fiji One and Domoy Viti.
Ayaw na rin siya. Kung minasama mo tikola, ang talita na radio Fiji One, kina Domoy Viti.
Kaya kuya sila tale, nagurarama na omanyi, nando nga. Gitu talita gini ang gitu Venezuela, nagudurong barong na radio Fiji One, nando Domoy Viti.
Na radio Fiji One, nando Domoy Viti na buong ni BNN.